Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at Flashpoint South China Sea. This is a newly released game designed by the esteemed Harold Buchanan and published by GMT Games. Now this is a two-player game. One player plays the United States and one player plays China, and it's a simulation of the geopolitical conflict in the South China Sea. Additionally, there are two solo modes. You can play solo as either the United States forces or the Chinese forces. Now this is designed as an easy-to-learn, fast-playing game. Let's jump in and take a look at the components and offer some initial impressions. I like the cover, sets the mood of the conflict, sets the tone and everything. I will also call our attention to, says Flashpoint Series Volume 1, which seems to indicate that there may be more of these coming. Always a good thing. Let's take a look at the back of the box and kind of offer some initial thoughts based on the overall kind of indicators they provide here. First of all, it lists it as a complexity. Well, let's back up for a second. Just to kind of draw a couple things. It's a card-driven game, two-player strategy game. There's no military conflict in this game. It's you're simulating the geopolitical competition around disputed territories in the South China Sea between China and the United States. So with that in mind, you're not going to be fighting a military conflict here. This again is considered to be that flashpoint, focusing on the politics in the area. Now, if we take a look at the kind of the overall indicators here, we've got a complexity of a 3 listed here out of 9. Looking through the rules, I think that feels about right for the two-player game. The solitaire rules seem a little bit longer and seem a little bit more detailed. I might be inclined to raise that to a 4, but you really kind of have to play with it. Kind of just looking at it and kind of, as I see it right now, I'd say that feels pretty good, but maybe the solitaire is just a touch higher. Solitaire suitability is a 9, and as I mentioned in the brief intro, there are 2 solo modes. So there's really, again, it's a game that's got 3 games in it. You've got the two-player game, you've got the solo mode as the US player, and then the solo mode as the Chinese player. So really kind of one of these games that has 3 games in one box. Now, it doesn't mention it here, but gameplay, oh, it does here, sorry. Playing time, 30 to 60 minutes. And judging by some tweets I've seen online, that seems to be pretty accurate. Most people saying they're finishing in well under an hour, even with some of their first games. So again, designed as a fast-moving game, you could imagine this being a filler, either at the end of a long gaming night or something you play at the beginning of a night, or if you want to play it 2 or 3 times in a night, you could do that as well. And we'll talk a little bit, I think, as we get into this and where, what kind of audiences might be interested in this game, because I think this has, like a number of other games we've looked at, has some broad applications for where this game can get played. And of course, being a short game like this should be a game that makes it to the table quite often. Let's open it up now and take a look. Enough of the babblage. So if we pry this open here, this is a relatively, also another element of this, it's a relatively low-cost game. This is not one that's got a ton of components. There are no counters in it, as we'll see. You've got a deck of cards, a map, and some blocks, and kind of some really nicely designed rule sets and some designer information here, too. We have 3 packs, 3 booklets, if you would, of documentation here. We've got the two-player rules, and one of the things that caught my eye as I was looking through this, first of all, it's not that long. It's 12 pages of rules, lots of pictures, kind of very well designed, full color, a matte finish. Again, this is a page out of our 12 pages here, and it's one big picture, as we can see here. So 2 columns, relatively big print. It feels almost like Euro-esque, if you would, and it's set up here as to be rules. So I think, as you look through this, I guess one of the questions I would ask, and one of the things I think is probable here, this does feel to me very much like a gateway game, like a game you could break out with someone that's interested in war games, has never played one before, maybe they've played a bunch of Euros. You could bring this out, I think, and this seems to me to be a really interesting game to be able to play and introduce someone to wargaming. I think this would be a lot of fun in one of these games that I definitely want to try for that. I'll also call our attention here to the end on page 11. What a great idea, what a neat design idea. We have playlists from Spotify. So Flashpoint, South China Sea, when the tension is low, play this one. When the tension is medium, play this one. And tension is high, play this one. What a cool idea. And there's a Discord server for the game as well. I have not seen this in a game as well, but I can say we had an evening, a family night over of gaming where we played the game Avalon, and we played medieval music, and that themed music with the game made the night. And I really like this idea. And is, going into the rules a little bit here, depending upon the state of the geopolitical conflict in the game, the tension in the region's either going to be low, medium, or high, and so changing the tracks for those things. I'm really excited to give this a try and to see how that plays out. So again, a 12-page rule book, relatively straightforward, not a lot of text, seems very clear, kind of look through the rules, seems like it's going to be easy to learn. I will also say that it mentions here that you only use this for the 2-player game. We're going to take a look now here at the solo rules of play. Then we'll come back and take a look at the playbook. So this is the rule book for the solo rules of play. And one of the things it mentions here in the 2-player book says if you're going to play this solo, completely ignore the 2-player rule book. So you don't have to learn the 2-player rules first. You can dive right into the solo rules. Now this one, as I mentioned, kind of looking at the complexity, this one is a little bit longer. It's 20 pages, counting the blank back here. So 19 pages really of kind of content, and not counting the cover, I guess. So, it's not that big, but it's a little bit bigger, and there's a little bit more to it, I think, than the solitaire mode. So I imagine, is it a 4 out of 9? I don't know. Maybe it's still a 3, but it's a little bit more complex to me, it seems like, instead of just the 2-player game, but not dauntingly so. So I think there's a lot of it. And really like the idea that you can play both the US side and the Chinese side in this game. So again, kind of expanding that depth of gameplay and the ability to kind of keep coming back to this. Then we have a playbook that kind of fills in a little bit of the context, designer notes, developer and solo design notes, and then it's a card-driven game, as we'll see. I think that's where a lot of the real visual appeal comes into this. And we can see here that they've got an explanation for all of the different cards in the game. I could see you really using this in educational situations to kind of help someone learn about this political conflict. I could see teachers using this in classrooms. We've got here in the back a timeline, the South China Sea dispute timeline, starting from 1947 and going all the way up to 2021, the state of the crisis. So some historical background and context. And each one of the event cards, again, kind of grounded and built on a foundation of actual historical events. So a lot of history to be learned in this by going through it. Let's take a look at the playing aids here. Just 3. 2 are identical. We have the sequence of actions here, and then we have the operations cost. So as the tensions change, the amount it costs, the amount of operations it costs to do different actions kind of goes up. And these are identical, so 1 for each player in the 2-player game. Sequence of play, which is relatively straightforward and simple, and then the operations cost to keep as a handy reference. The 3rd player aid is the solo play aid, where you have sequence of play. I also like this, reminders. I've actually started to do this playing a lot of games now, where I'm reading a rule book and I think, I'm going to forget that. And it's important. And so I started jotting down this little notepad beside me of really, I call them notes, but I should call them reminders, because they're kind of critical rules that are easily forgotten that are essential to gameplay. And I usually end up with anywhere from like 3 to 10 of those before I start playing a game. I found it really helpful as a learning aid. And it was interesting to see reminders here off to the side in that same way. So lots of like nice little quality of life touches, I think, to the production of this. And again, we see the same thing here, sequence of play, reminders. This is for the Chinese side, and this is when you're playing as the US. So let's go in now and take a look at the map. I think I guess we'll call it a map, but now it's 22 by 17, so it's a very small footprint game. I'll show an overview of this as I unfold it here. And we can see again that it's almost of, and I think looking at this, it reminds me much of kind of Twilight Struggle, where you're going to be vying for influence in different regions. And then as we see with the cards, you're going to have scoring cards, and you can play them at different times. So we can see each region here has an economic, Vietnam here, economic and a diplomatic status. And you're going to be putting down these blocks that we'll take a look at to kind of sway the influence in one area or another. Then we have the 3 contested areas, Scarborough Shoal, which is connected to the Philippines. Then we have the Paracel Islands, which are connected to Vietnam. And down a little bit lower here, we have the Spratly Islands connected to Malaysia. So you have these regions that you're going to be vying for influence of, as well as these contested areas. And then there's also an economics track and one other scoring area as well. So, neat little board. It reminds me again, I think almost of like a mini Twilight Struggle. And I don't say that in a bad way, of course. Twilight Struggle is an amazing game. It feels like a little bit, it's borrowed a little bit from that type of gameplay here, where you're vying for influence through the dynamic play of cards to try to win the game. Let's take a look now. Briefly, these are the blocks. So basically you place these on the different squares to kind of keep track of the game status as you're moving through. And then the last thing that we want to take a look at here is the deck of cards. There are 63 cards in the deck of 3 different types. So we get 48 event cards, and we'll take a look at some of those in a moment. We get 7 scoring cards, and then we get 7 solo play cards. And so these basically, the game consists of 3 campaigns, and each campaign consists of 7 turns. So there's 7 solo cards, 1 card for each turn in each of the 3 campaigns. And of course, recycle them 3 times as you play. And I think I haven't really dug into the solo rules yet, but I think what these do is they establish the priority of play for the solo bot as to where it's going to kind of focus its actions in that particular turn. And again, I'm kind of speculating based on not having read the rules, but glance through the rules, but not really digging that deep into them. So we have here a Chinese reclamation and then freedom of navigational operations card that you can score, an economics card that you can score, and then the 5 regions, countries really that you can score: Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei, all available for scoring. And you can score these part of the way through, much like in Twilight Struggle. When you score a region can determine a lot as to whether you're going to win or lose. Likewise, there's opportunities in the game to score these at opportune moments to deny your opponent later, so you kind of lock in the scoring for that particular campaign. Then, the part that's really caught my eye here is the 48 event cards covering a lot of different historical events and hypothetical events in the region here. I'll show some close-ups of these. These basically, kind of a rough understanding of how the game plays. We've got cards that have a black border, which are neutral, which can be played both by the Chinese or the US side. Red cards are events that are favorable to the Chinese side. Blue cards are events that are favorable to the US side. And each card can be played one of 4 ways. You can play it for its operational value up at the top. You can play it for its scoring value, which is the bottom left here, so you can score that particular region. If it is an event that's for your side, you can play it for the event. So if I'm the US player here, I can play Vietnam reclaims Sand K. And there's also a mode card. So if the mode here underneath this operational values, and there are 3 of these, matches the mode of the discarded card, the top discarded card, so the card that your opponent would have played, you can then trigger either the event or the scoring for the card that your opponent has discarded. So you can see that there's it starts to develop a subtlety of play probably where you have to be a little bit careful about what you're discarding because your opponent might be able to play that card for an event even though it's a card that you're trying to get out of play by discarding. So lots of different color, beautiful events, and in many ways, I mentioned Twilight Struggle, but the other thing this game reminds me of is Shores of Tripoli. Why? Well, it's fast playing. It's going to be about 60 minutes or less. I think a lot of historical information and context present in the cards. I think it's of a relatively, I wouldn't say necessarily obscure, but I think this is an area of the world that a lot of Westerners perhaps don't know that much about, don't know a lot of it about kind of the subtleties of the disputes and conflicts that have arisen in this region. And I really see, one of the things I see about Shores of Tripoli and this game is that educational value. I could see a teacher bringing this into a classroom, sharing it with a couple or 2 or 3 interested students as a project, have those students learn this game, play this game, and then kind of create a video, write a movie on it or something like that. I could really see some really neat educational implications for this game, much the same way I felt with Shores of Tripoli. It plays fast, it's easy to learn, you learn a ton about a particular aspect of the world that you probably don't know much about before you started, and you'll be able to come back and really kind of learn a lot about the history of the event as you're kind of playing the game. So there you have it. Flashpoint South China Sea, designed by Harold Buchanan. Let me know what you think. I'm very excited to play. I definitely want to bring this to the channel, not only because it's a 30 to 60 minute game, which is really nice for making videos. It wouldn't be, tremendously long series. I'm very excited to introduce this to a couple of friends who I've been slowly kind of working my way into testing and trying war games. I do think this has a ton of potential as a gateway game. Now, it does mention too that I think there's like a 3.5 to 4 point edge that the Chinese seem to have. So it's easy, playing straight up, it's easier to win as the Chinese. And in the two-player game, there's a bidding system where you bid to play the Chinese, and whoever bids the highest gets that, and those are the number of points that are granted to the US. So there is a slight advantage to the Chinese, which of course, in playing a gateway game, if you're introducing somebody new to wargaming, it'd be great for you to take the US, give them China, and then you play from a zero starting point. So there's some ways to, with the victory points at the beginning, to adjust the difficulty of the game as well. So I think lots of applications here, as well as just straight up playing a game for the fun of it. I'm very much looking forward to digging into this and giving it a shot, and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this unboxing, you may also enjoy our recent unboxing of Enemy Action Kharkov. A much bigger and a much more complex game, but very similar in that it has a highly defined two-player game mode, as well as solo bots for both the German and Russian side, of course playing a large conflict in World War II. I'll put a link to that here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great day.